the show on the road. My name's John Abbott, and I have with me Hilton Parker, all the way from Western Australia. Welcome, Hilton.
Thanks, John. Thanks, John. Great to be here.
All the way here from Australia, here in Bali with me, because we've been running some local seminars and information sessions on the way people can actually invest in Bali, and we've been having people coming through from all around the world, looking at retirement, looking at investment, all sorts of different ideas. People looking to build, resorts and eco centers and all sorts of amazing stuff. So we've had quite a variety of people that we've been speaking to over the last week, and of course we run our webinars to be able to get this message out and this information out much wider than that. So first of all, thank you for being on the call and having interest in investments that might be a little bit outside of your standard criteria that you'd find, certainly for me when I was living in Australia, which was like, here's your superannuation, here's a superannuation portfolio, off you go do your thing. It's going to be fine when you get out to a retirement age, and don't worry about that, because this is what we predicted. However, that didn't really work out as well as they expected or suspected. And to be honest, it did kind of look like it was a bit kind of too good to be true. Even with something which was as bankable as your superannuation portfolio that we're talking about, which is so safe. So the reason why we're doing this, and the reason why we have established ourselves here in Bali, is because we've been looking for other ways of, number one, living our lifestyle. So this was 100% a pure lifestyle decision for myself and my family. You'll see over there, rather than Allegra. It was absolutely a lifestyle decision to be in Bali. And all of the other opportunities which have now shown up, like the investment opportunities, like the retirement opportunities, was just a bonus. And very lucky to be here and have this on our doorstep and be investing ourselves and developing. And when I was over in Australia, not even 2 years ago, I ran into Hilton, who's a big developer and been in this industry for 24 years, building homes, designing stuff, and helping people with their own retirements and their homes and their investments. I said to him, "Hey, would you like to be involved in something that I can see is growing out of Bali?" And it was a very quick decision around that. And now Hilton's here developing himself as well with us. So some really interesting reasons why he's doing that, and he's going to share that as well. We also have a whole crew of people who are behind us, who aren't behind us, but behind us as in developers, designers, on the ground construction, all the way to sales, support, and people who can reference and use as professional services as well, connected into government and all sorts of amazing connections that we've developed over the last 4 years, and an interesting journey. And I hope to share some of the journey with you today, and give you an idea of what's possible, and maybe what's possible for you as a retirement or as an investment or as a relocation, because there's all sorts of things available. So I'm going to get to share my screen, and I'm going to pop up our presentation. So give me a second just to do that. That should be great. That looks good. So before we get started, I want to just make sure that you are all kind of connected in with this thing called Zoom, which is this interface that we're using right now. And Zoom, if you're new to it, what I want you to do is just look to the bottom of your screen, and what you'll find, I've got a screen over here so I can actually see what you're seeing. What you'll find is that you've got a little Q&A. Top left-hand corner is on my computer. There's like a little black band in the top left-hand corner, and there's a thing called Q&A. So just click Q&A and just pop in that you're here, that you can see that you're online, that you can use that part of it, because this is going to be a little interactive as well. So just pop on there, pop into the Q&A, say yes, I found it online. Great to be here. And let me know. Just hit send once you've written that in. Cool. Great. Thank you, guys. That works fabulously. Excellent. Wow. Great. Looks like everyone's finding it. Good. Fantastic. Yes. Yes. Peter. Great. You exist. Thank you. Excellent. So you found that. So as we go through this, I'm going to be watching the Q&A. So my eyes will be going down to watch the Q&As down my right-hand corner. So if you have questions, I'm going to be watching that to answer that. And depending on if myself or Hilton are speaking, we're going to be seeing if we can answer that live. And if we can answer live, we'll do that. We really want to be honoring your time over this next hour. So if there's a lot of questions coming through, what we're going to do quite simply is just take all those questions and either get into a one-on-one conversation with you, because a lot of it quite often is your specific situation, your criteria around your investments and retirement potentially, or it might be a much bigger answer, or there's a lot of other variables. So what we'll do is we'll pull those together and we'll send that back as a response to everybody who's on the call right now as well. So if that's okay with you, let's get started. And let's open the conversation by saying that if you've number one, let's ask who here has been to Bali. Let's just pop into the Q&A. Have you been to Bali before? Have you been to Indonesia before? Have you left your country? So if that's a yes, just pop in there. Yes, been to Bali. When last did you come? Which will be great. Just pop into your Q&A. Yes, and when you came. And no, some people no, some people yes. Great, excellent. All right, good. So I might be talking about some things that you won't. Well, in fact, I'll probably be talking about a lot of things that you don't know then about Bali, and other than the stuff that you may have heard through the news. And there's always good news that's published, not. So I'm going to be telling you a bit more about the good news, because a lot of the stuff that gets published into other countries about this beautiful island is a real stretch of the imagination of what's actually going on. All right, what we're going to promise today, what you'll take away is we're going to talk about why investing in Bali is a great idea. Now, if you had asked me this 5 years ago, I would have had no idea. And like you're potentially sitting here today, you might be looking at this, go, okay, interesting. I'm listening. I'm okay to listen to this, but I don't know. So we're going to talk about why it is a great idea. Why it's an enviable retirement opportunity. Why is it that this is actually a massive opportunity and a destination for you to retire. The keys to successful investment, by there's a lot that goes on here. A lot of people don't get it right, who can't kind of come over here and think they can just kind of come in and just do the thing. It's very, very different to, I'm going to speak about Australia and even South Africa, so those are my two backgrounds of where I've developed and purchased and built houses. So, understanding those two countries, this is very, very different. Laws or lack of laws, lack of, specific criteria, all sorts of things that can get, really, quite muddy, and lots of people get it wrong. So, this is part of some of the things that we do, and why we've done put this together, is to make sure that people coming here actually have a safe investment. There are interesting things that go on. What opportunities are available for you? So we're going to talk to you about a number of different opportunities that we actually have right now, and ones that are part of either our own developments. They are other developments that people have asked us to represent for them, and other ones that are already in the market that have great history that we can show you, and great future, which, because a lot of the future of these properties are already pre-purchased, and how to take advantage of the current market. The market has matured over the last few years, which is beautiful, which means that probably today is probably a far better time to kind of come into the market, because there's enough people now in there who've had enough experiences for people like ourselves to actually take all those experience and give people a consistent experience that, to a level and a standard that they're used to expecting. And then what's your next steps? And connecting with us and having a conversation, seeing what's possible for you. And I really do would love to set the framework of this right up front, which is we never know what's available to us until we speak to somebody far more knowledgeable. And Hilton is 20 odd years in this industry, so we'd love to make sure that you're connecting in with that wisdom and seeing what's possible for you at the end of this. All right, let's take it on. This one here, which is who are we? And if we've not met before, my name is John Abbott, and a lot of my background has been in social entrepreneurship, online marketing and sales. I have been a developer in Australia. We've developed unit developments, lots of personal residences that we've purchased, and rental properties and investments, as well in South Africa. And now I'm a resident here in Indonesia, in Bali, and an owner and a developer here as well. And the young man sitting next to me here is Hilton Parker with 25 years of experience. I wish I could say that, in the building industry and designing and selling individual homes and investments. And he does that very, very well. You'll see some of the designs that they've put together for here in Bali, and they are stunning, just stunning, beautiful, exotic, and you'll see it. It's great. So great to have Hilton on our team and really heading this up. And all of us are in partnership in Exquisite Properties. And like I say, we've got a whole team of people part of that group. So why Bali? So there's a whole bunch of reasons why. Number one, I came to Bali, and one of them is this whole sense of freedom. And today, more so than even when I left Australia, I totally get this whole sense of freedom. And I'll give you an example, something that you'll probably relate to, especially if you're from Australia or South Africa or other countries where the laws are so heavily inground in process and procedure that you think to yourself, why do I have to jump through all these hoops to get anything done when this is a logical process for me to follow? But what they're doing is they're dumbing the law and the process down to the lowest common denominator in our community, which means that everybody has to be dumbed down, and you've got to jump through all these hoops and stand in lines and get this thing and stamped. And if you can relate to that, then just pop in here and just say, yeah, I can relate to that, John. There's something about living here in Bali which gives us the ability to make decisions and do things in a way that it's not that there's no laws here. It's just that they're more of guidelines than laws, and basically they encourage you to work within those guidelines rather than this is the law and this is the way you do it. And if you don't have that stamp and this thing and exactly by then you're going to jail, essentially, or you're going to get fined, or you're going to So there's a sense of freedom that the fact that I can jump on my scooter and take my daughter on my scooter who sits in the front of the scooter, and you can judge that and say, well, that's crazy, but that's how I grew up in South Africa. I was on the motorcycle with my dad with no helmets, and we were doing, that's how we lived, and that was standard practice in South Africa. And we went to Australia, and that all changed. And in fact, you couldn't take your kids on bikes anymore. And now I feel like I've refound something here in the freedom of that to make just make my own conscious decisions, and live by my own circumstance, and be. I guess there's what's lovely about this country is that everyone takes responsibility for their own actions, and that's a big part of it. In countries that I've lived before, everyone's really out to blame the next person. You didn't stop at the stop street. You didn't do this. You did. Rather than let's all take responsibility for our own actions. So then we're looking and we're healing and we're making sure that everyone's okay. Everyone has to be okay to be on the roads together, to live together, in community, in a way that is supportive of the community. The second part is security, and the security actually comes from investment. The investments that we have here, and the way that we've done that has a security behind myself and my family far stronger than I had in Australia. And it's a whole conversation just on that. And I'm not going to be going into that as much, but I'm now a global citizen. I have a global, capital investments and stuff that I can control and I can manage. I decide, where my taxable money goes. I decide on how I, connect into the community, give back, contribute because of the way that I've, set up the security of our assets. Third one is actual investment itself, and I'm not going to say much more on that because we're going to be talking a lot about that. The actual, the level of investment available, opportunity. That's amazing. The global community that's here, the people who are showing up, and the people who are actually just deciding to change their entire life to actually come live here, and opportunities are flowing between us in the community. That we're working together, we're doing projects. We've just come out of a meeting, literally, a half hour ago, with a guy who's working on a patented, not working on. They got these factories which are patented plastic smelting type factories, which basically you can put any kind of plastic in, and on the other side they're just pumping up pellets, plastic pellets from all of this, from garbage bags and so. Now we can become part of it. They're looking for people to help them because the skills and stuff like that are available aren't at the level of global, a global level yet. So like they're looking for people to help them there, and so these opportunities just show up because people are doing extraordinary things there, and because they couldn't actually even set that up in Australia because of all of the legalities and all of the certificates and stuff that you'd even have to do would take years. They did that like in a year, a few years ago. So amazing projects available to just get involved in. Retirement factor, why Bali is such an amazing place, or so open to inviting people in as retirees here. They've got an amazing program that really supports people retiring here, and we're going to hear all about why that would make total sense as well. And the future, that there's an amazing future, future and growth here that gives us the opportunity to see this as a base for myself, certainly. There's future growth from perspective that the land and the country is still new. It's young and it's still growing. There's so much we can contribute to the local people to help them upskill themselves and take themselves to a whole different level. So there's a great future here. And the last one is lifestyle choice rather than a death style choice. And I talk about that from the perspective that people in retirement are going into retirement homes where they go to die. That's not a lifestyle village. That's a death style village. So where can you go in the world where you can get a chef that we have coming every day who makes us our meals, the food that we get, which is all organic and fresh. Literally the tomatoes I had for lunch and everything was picked last night or this morning to come to our home because it gets picked up on the way by our chef. And then we have people who clean our homes and people who look after us, and there's so much lifestyle choice around that allows you to really live a much higher level of lifestyle than you might be living today. And certainly if you look into the future of what kind of money you have available, not quite like a majority of people, certainly in Australia and I would suggest around the world, will be downgrading their lifestyle going into retirement. And that's probably a great lead-in to what I'm going to hand over to Hilton to talk about. So hopefully that kind of gives you a little bit of an idea of why we're doing what we're doing right now. All right, I'm going to turn over to some retirement reality, and I'm going to slide this over here so you can be in the limelight, Hilton, because this is really interesting stuff that you're going to be covering.
Thanks so much, John. I think you've covered that really well. you can see that I'm closer to retirement than John by a long shot, and so it's something that's pretty much on my mind. But I don't want to necessarily just talk about retirement as the only thing we're going to discuss here. But certainly, retirement is something which is that planning towards it, something that we all need to do for a long time early in our working life. These are the statistics that I found within Australia. I'll just run through them quickly. So basically the government is saying, so ASIC is saying, to retire in Australia, a couple need $58,364 a year, and that's just to live a normal life. It's a basic life. $58,364 is what they say that a couple require. Okay. What they've also said is that in order to generate that amount of money, you would need a lump sum of $538,000 with whatever form it comes from. It could be from your superannuation or whatever. But $538,000 is the amount of money needed to generate that sort of an income. Yeah, the bad news here is that according to these statistics, which ASIC responsible people have put out, they've gone, well, this is how much you need. Oh, by the way, it's going to run out by the time you're 87. Now, 87 these days is not very old. My mum is older than that, and she can still kick over her head. She doesn't plan on passing on for many years to come. So, and I think a lot of people, as time goes by, we're getting to live a lot longer. Mm-hmm. So what ASIC is saying here is, in order to actually generate enough income to last for 35 years, you'd need $920,000. Well, that's great. And that's from superguide.com. So that's what we require. This slide here actually talks about how much people actually have. And so this is from AMP themselves, from their source. AMP policyholders showing how much money Australians really have in their superannuation. So saying here, look, most people, it's somewhere around $80,000 to $90,000 is how much money people actually have in their superannuation fund. So we've just said that you need 920,000 and people looking somewhere around 82 to 90,000. There's a huge shortfall there. And that's really, that's, a lot of people are not in this situation, but, that's where the majority of people are with superannuation funds. So the next slide here talking about in the 1980s, superannuation companies sold their policies, showing a projected growth rate of 13 to 18% per year. And that's what we bought it on. We were sold this, you could expect that sort of growth. There were all these tax-free benefits, perhaps there wasn't going to be any tax. Now there was becoming tax and so on. So the projection was 13 to 18%. Now, the facts, as it's turned out now, some years later, AustralianSuper.com's actual growth figures showing from 1997, the actual growth has been 4.45% per annum and 10-year growth at 4.24%. So that's just way short of that 13 to 18%. And that's why people are resulting in having 80,000 in their superannuation account, and instead of the 400,000, 500,000, 600,000 that we expected when we took those policies out those years ago. The growth figures from the superannuation funds are almost impossible to get. You can only imagine why it is they don't make. Yeah, how come they don't tell you? Well, they don't really want you to know. But those are the figures that are actually out there. So what we're saying is that with superannuation, people have got that. That's their nest egg. The other thing that you might say is that people have got a property, their own family home, and they may have both. So I guess the thing with having the family home, you've probably had a number of years as your family's grown, and then I guess the kids leave home and you maybe downsize a little bit. But I guess if you're looking at moving into retirement, you're going to be saying, okay, well look, let's downsize the home. Let's look at we need a smaller property. It's going to be less expensive to live in. We don't need all the space and so on. So saying here that you could either stay in the same area and buy a unit. Reason for that, I guess a lot of people are saying, well, we've been to the same doctor for years. We know where the dentist is. We know where the hardware store is. We're comfortable in the area where we know our neighbours. That's where we'd like to stay. So maybe we just downsize to a unit. The alternative to that, of course, is that you'd buy a smaller house, but that would mean that you'd be moving into a newer area. So probably in all reality, if you're trying to save some money, gather up some money, moving out to an outer suburb, well, that's okay, but it's probably not appealing to a lot of people in reality. The problem here, as it says at the bottom, is that the cost between the house and the unit in your area is not actually going to save you much money at all. So we're all thinking, okay, we're going to sell a house, we're going to pick up $500,000 and chuck it in. That's going to pay for our retirement. So let's just go to the next slide here and just the next part of it. And it shows the reality here. And I've just chosen 3 areas here in Perth. So Bassendean being the first one. It's saying the median house price in Bassendean is $528,780. It's saying the median unit price is $399,000. A difference there of $128,992. You can see for Kiara and Burswood, somewhere similar. Burswood there, $830,000 for a house, $721,000 for a unit. So the difference being $109,000. So there's the reality of that big lump sum that you were going to have to put towards your retirement. Now, from that amount there, that's not all your money, because, of course, you've got to actually move from this place to the next place. You've got moving costs. You've got real estate agents' costs. You've got stamp duty on buying your next home and so on. So you're going to eat into a fair bit of that money that's there. So, yeah, the story is not really as good as we would have hoped. Super's not really there, and in the house, selling the house doesn't really seem to be working in reality either. So a lot of people in Australia are going to be looking forward to a retirement. That's, it's not really going to be what we planned. We'll certainly be downsizing, we'll be downgrading, and a lot of the alternatives people are not really comfortable with. So let's have a look at that. Sort of probably the situation in Australia. But if we look at moving and investing in Bali, there's an entirely different picture there. And this is you had the sad part, this is the happy part. Okay.
Well, before we get there, let's have a look at Australia. Okay.
All right. So yeah, that's Australia. So we're just saying here, a lot of people in Australia, they've bought an investment property. And this would be fairly typical of an investment property in Australia. This is Melbourne unit, about 60 square metres. The return, typical return would be 4% on the capital that you've invested. Current interest rate somewhere around 5%, 5.3%. You'd have 100% occupancy there because you're long-term let and so on. Median price for that's $480,000, and the current growth rate around 2.4%. So that's a typical investment in Australia. This could be somewhere you have your home, and this is your investment property.
Yep. Let's
move on to an alternative. Here's an example in Bali. So this is an actual example. This is one of the properties that is part of our portfolio here. And this is an already built property in a beautiful location with a history, a rental history. So these are actual figures for the past couple of years that it's been there. This is a property which was developed or was designed by a European fashion designer. And you can see from that photograph there, it's quite gorgeous. And you can see the little ballet to the left there. Well, there's rice fields out to the left, and out of shot to the right, there are rice fields there as well. So it's almost on a little peninsula. It's just a little walk. You walk through a pathway next to a stream, and you come to this beautiful property here. So this is one which is currently there. And these are the actual figures, as I said. So remembering those returns that we were looking from that past slide, here's this actual one here. So the return on capital, 12 to 18%. Quite different. The average occupancy for Ubud is 70%. This one, in fact, has, you can see 88% there below, but the average for Ubud is 70%. But if we used a figure there of 50% occupancy, the return is 10% plus. So as opposed to that 2.4, I think it was for Melbourne. This particular property has been rented out for the last 3 years, and they started renting it out at $220 a night, and they currently have it at $365 a night. The owners just rented out through Airbnb, so they are getting a very good return on it. Very high occupancy. There are some figures which we could, send through to you if you'd like to find out more about this, and they're basically showing the occupancy over the last 3 years, and one of the years was lower. And the reason for that was that the owner loved it so much, he just never left to let it out. So yeah, he had all his friends staying there, and that particular year it wasn't quite so good, but that was the reason for that. So these are realistic figures here. So on Airbnb, it has a really high rating, and this is fairly typical. So this is, as I said, an established property, part of the portfolio that we have available at the moment.
And something like this, which is interesting, is that, number one, we're looking at real figures. And we're here right now, and last month you guys would have got, depending on where you're calling in from, if you're in Australia, you would have heard about the fact that we had a volcano erupt on one of the islands quite close by. And with the action in the sky, people couldn't get into Bali. Well, they actually couldn't get out either. So as much as people go, oh, well, what if that happens? How's that going to affect me? Well, people get stuck here, and these people stay here for months. We've had somebody stay here for a whole month because the ash was there, and every time they try to get on their plane, because every time they try to book the next flight, it's a week later, and then a week later, so like their flight only gets missed on that day because on that hour it was supposed to go out, they closed the airport. People get stuck, and they stay here and on and on. So as much as there's people going to go, oh, well, that's a real concern. Well, it actually isn't, because if people can't get in, they can't get out either. And what happens is then it opens up, and then people flood in because they want to be here, and flights actually drop in price. We can buy $60 flights, because now that the people who had stopped booking because they couldn't get on, now they actually want people to rebook, so the flights go down and everyone floods back in. So it's even in its worst times, it's actually really, really profitable. Of course, that doesn't happen for all properties, and you'll see that this is a very, very unique looking property. It's very beautifully designed, and there's a strategy around this to attract the traffic that you want. And if you're asking for $365 a night, you're looking for a specific type of individual that looks at that and goes, that's great value, and wants to pay that. So you design the house, you build the house around the kind of lifestyle and the kind of design criteria that your target market is looking for. And these, all the stuff that we're going to show you this evening on this webinar, is all based on us understanding our target market really, really well, who's going to either rent it, or if you're going to buy it, rent it at times that you're not there.
Just before you move on, John, just on that point, when we set up Exquisite Properties, it was one of the first things that we made the decision. We said, yeah, there's property that you can buy in Bali. We wanted to be very careful, and so we named the business Exquisite Properties. And the reason for that was we said we only want to deal in exquisite properties. There are some gorgeous properties here. There's also some rubbish. Some of the construction is terrible. It falls apart in no time flat. I mean, we're in the tropics here, so, things age a lot. I mean, for instance, if you were using coconut timber, a lot of builders will use that. It looks great for the first 18 months, and then it's, termites get into it, it just weathers, it looks terrible after that. If you're using it structurally, it's just, it's not a good component to use. So our choice was that we were only going to deal with exquisite properties, and the things that we build were going to be to Australian standard. So example being, we'll show you a slide in a minute where we've used an Australian designer, supervisor, and so it must be to Australian standards. Also, all of our contracts, all of our documentation is all to Australian standards. So anybody who's sort of considering it, thinking, well, I'm not sure, about the legal side of things, this is something that we've covered in great detail. It's a very important component of what we're doing. So please feel comfortable. The homes are beautiful, construction's great, contracts and so on are very strong. Thanks, John.
Yeah, nice.
Okay, so probably about 3 kilometres from here, as the crow flies from John's house, is this beautiful area, a little village called Laplapan, which is just off to the side of Ubud. It has a beautiful jungle view out the front, and this particular piece of property, this has just been designed. It's about to be built, or it will be built. There are 4 villas in this development. One of them is already sold. So this one here have a look before you're looking at the writing on it, if you've already done so. If you look back in, these are drawings, these are 3Ds that we've had done, which are showing the building itself. It's very architectural. You see it's very open plan, the windows, sliding doors, which are at the front right-hand side of the master bedroom there. There are 2 bedrooms behind with their own bathrooms and so on. What we've done with this property is we've said, the property is sloping from the rear to the front. So we've stepped it down as we go through. And I don't know whether you can see just behind those couches, which are in the centre there, you can probably see some stairs running up there. There's just 5 stairs, but basically they've got water features either side. And it just moves down from there. There's a couple of steps as you go through, moving towards this valley, and you'll see the pool in the front has got an infinity edge to it. So the water is just falling off apparently into the jungle valley below. The kitchen itself is just very open plan. It's just very modern, very stylish. It's the sort of place in Australia which would be in any home design book. So here's the example here of number 2. So the first one was built. This one here a little more expensive, but certainly a different level of what we're offering here. So the purchase price here, $450,000, and we're talking Australian dollars in anything we talk about, $450,000. This is a 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom villa. Here we're using a rental income of $350 a night. We're using Australian dollars, but in actual fact you'd be renting it out in American dollars, which would be giving you a higher return. But let's be conservative here and use 350 Australian dollars per night to rent out. We've used a rental based on a 50% occupancy, and you remember we were saying that Ubud has a 70% occupancy on average, and this is certainly above average. So, 50% is very conservative. Now, the income from that would be $63,700 per year, which is a 14.15% gross return.
So just stop there for a moment. $63,700 per annum is already more than the base amount of money that they were saying that you could kind of just live on in Australia. And this is just like one investment that could pretty much do that without any super.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like if you consider your own income and said, well, what if I could replace my income and have something that worked for me without you having to put a lot of time and effort into this? We have an entire team and service that basically will go out and market this and make sure that you're getting, more than the base occupancy of 50%. Because it's the same team that are doing the villas that we just showed you previously, which are getting 88%. So same team, they know how to do this, and they've been doing it with, I think they've got 15 villas in that other one, which all average around between the 70 and the 88%. So, a really great way of saying, well, either I can have something like this, and I can have that as my income, $63,000 a year, and okay, there's going to be some costs and stuff like that, but that's okay. Is that what would even on a net income of $52,000 a year extra in your bank account, look like for you? And if you still got your income, you've got that as well. So I harp on about it. It's ridiculous. It's
of course
crazy.
It is. Yeah. And that's right. So, look at that income there. That's the gross income. And obviously there are costs, as John said. And so we've used our figures here. Again, we've tried to sort of overestimate a little bit. The cost there of $11,520. So that's including a chef. So that's someone who's full-time looking after your property. And we call it a chef. Someone who's going to do your cooking. They're going to go to the markets and buy your food. They're also going to clean your house. They're going to change the sheets and so on. They're also going to be there to welcome anybody. So if you're not living there, if this is your investment and you say, okay, look, I'm in Australia. How do I know it's being looked after? Well, this person's the one who's going to be looking after it. Okay. Now, the next person there is security. Now, because we're in a village which is 2.8 kilometres from the centre of Ubud, we'd use some of the local people to look after security, and basically they're just there to keep an eye on the place. It's not as if there's any issues there, but it's just it really employs a local person from the village. We'd also have the gardens taken care of and the pool with all the chemicals and so on in there as well. Now, out of those costs there's also included a 5% of your return paid allowance for bookings. So if you decided to use Airbnb, their charge is 3%. If you decided to use us, we cover that within that cost for you. So all of those costs, there's nothing sort of hidden in there at all. So we're using that figure there. You can see we've got a net income of $52,180 per year, a return of 11.59%. And just jumping back, we've been conservative on the day rates and the occupancy rate. But that's, that's nice to use those sorts of figures. So if you just put all your money back into it, so let's say you're going to use this as an investment, we're just going to get all the money, stick it back into it, pay itself off in 8.6 years, it's fully paid out. So a pretty nice example there. Just moving on to the next slide from there, using the same property, you can see the options. Well, what are we going to do after that? So in that 8.6 years time, what are our options? So the first one's a fully paid for home with an income of $52,180 a year. So you're still living in Australia. Here's your investment. It's giving you a lovely retirement income. Okay. The second one would be, it would be a fully paid out home for your retirement. So, let's say it's fully paid off, you've decided to move to Bali. There you go, the house is fully paid out. The alternative, another alternative might be that you'd live in it for 6 months and you'd rent it out for 6 months. And I think that's a very realistic thing where a lot of Australian people would say, yeah, but I want to be back home for Christmas. I want to be there for the grandkids' birthdays. So, there are things going on. So you want to have that flexibility to be able to move backward and forward. So, if you had 6 months, you could do it in one block or you could break it up however you wanted. So that way you've got a home in Bali for 6 months of the year and $26,000 income coming out of it. And that's still, that's still only using that 50% occupancy number. So, we're being conservative here. And of course, the last one is you could just say, look, I'm just going to sell it. Interestingly enough, the Knight Frank have a worldwide property index, and the current one is showing that the top 100 cities in the world, the first is New York, the second one is Aspen in Colorado, and the third one is Bali. Melbourne comes in at 13 and Sydney comes in at 21. They're the only two cities in the top 100 in Australia. So yeah, so the bottom one there is simply sell it at a handsome profit. I mean, everybody, well, lots and lots of people are wanting to live in Bali. Thanks, John.
Yeah.
Here's a third example, and I just want to use this is another one which is off the plan, and this is a brilliant investment for self-managed superannuation fund investments. So these are people who are saying, okay, I don't want to move into this. This is part of my superannuation fund. I've got money tied up in shares. I've got some money in property, but I'm looking at increasing my property portfolio. But looking at what the returns are in Australia, they're pretty ordinary. This is one which is geared specifically for self-managed superannuation funds. So, well, first we'll look at the numbers there and so on. So the purchase price, as you can see, it's $242,750. So it's about half the price of that little 60 square metre Melbourne unit that we were looking at. So a very affordable investment for people's superannuation. You're not going to buy anything much for that price in Australia. But here,
I'm just trying to think of where would you buy something for $242,000?
Nobody you'd want to live, let me tell you.
Nowhere where you're going to get a return.
No, absolutely not.
So it would be pointless anyway.
That's right. So if you were looking at adding this to a property portfolio within your self-managed superannuation fund, and if that doesn't make a lot of sense to you, then please, we'd love to direct you to where that information is available. We've done a lot of research on that as well, but we can point you towards people who will guide you on that so that you do it correctly. So this particular place, it's a fully managed investment. So there's actually 20 villas in this group of buildings. Now, it's fully managed. All the management costs are taken into account. There's money allowed there for rental. There's money for maintenance. There's money for staffing. Everything's taken care of. So there's a published return of 9.38% net. Okay, that return's based on a 60% occupancy. We've got excellent capital growth there. And the little bonus on it is that you've got 2 weeks free villa usage. So this is not one for you to go and stay in 6 months of the year. This is for your superannuation fund, okay? Now me just tell you about this particular place. It's a development that's being put together by an Australian and a Balinese partnership. These people are very experienced. The Balinese people have over 40 years in project development. They've currently just recently completed a 140 villa development in Nusa Dua, I think. Yeah, Nusa Dua. So that's the sort of well, this is the credibility that these people have. They're very, very good at what they do. Now, not only that, this particular investment, which is in Sanur, these people have businesses, similar businesses currently there. They have a villa development, they have a small hotel, they have a backpackers hotel, they also have a restaurant. All these are within walking distance. Yes, walking distance, yeah, of that. So these are people who have been long-term in Sanur, and they've said, this is the next thing that the next stage that we want to go to. Now what they've done, as I said, there's 20 villas in this development, and they're keeping quite a few of them for themselves. Okay, so that's the thing there, but they're releasing a number of them to the public, and they've just been released now, so it's as fresh out of the box, and I think this is, this is perfect for superannuation. Remember, we were looking at that 60% occupancy. Their actual occupancy is up around the 80% area. So, and we would happily introduce you to the developers there, and you can have that conversation with them. Everything is absolutely above board, and the villas. You can see there, they're a 1 and 2 bedroom villas. So the 1 bedroom villa is 242, the 2 bedroom villa is just a little over 300. Interestingly enough, 1 bedroom seems to be what people are choosing to stay in. That's where the highest occupancy comes from. So this particular one, you can see it's a villa there with, it's a walled enclosure. It has its own pool. Everyone has its own pool, has its own deck, has its little sun area there, and they're beautifully presented. If we just go to the next slide there, I think there's, okay. So there's a couple of pictures there of how they'll actually be. So the top one there is showing the little outdoor area there. So it's got a deck, it's got a pool, and obviously it's fully landscaped. The one below showing the interior, and this is actually as they're going to be. It's not really an interpretation. They're saying the furniture you see is what's actually going to be in there. So they're nice and modern. They're going to be really easy to keep, really easy to let out, and fully managed. These guys do a professional job. It's great. There's going to be a restaurant in there, and there's all sorts of other things. Just the map to the right there, if anybody knows Sanur, this is a really great part of Sanur. So if you know where the Bali Hyatt, the Hyatt Hotel is, that's been closed for some time for redevelopment. That's ongoing now, and we're across the road from that. So we're very close. We're about 80 metres in from the road, the main shopping road, which runs through Sanur, and is very close to the Maya Resort, which is just newly completed. That's that one, if you know, it's got a big curving roof with grass across the top, quite spectacular. So we're just a couple of minutes walk from there, within Jalan-Kasari. So it's a little street, it's a lovely little road, and it's probably, say, 80 metres, I would say, from the development to the main street where the cafes, the restaurants are, and through there you would just walk through one of the resorts and you're straight onto the beach. So it's a beautiful place. I mean, it's where a lot of people come to stay. Investments, if you look up Sanur places for sale, you'll generally find that they're on the inland side of that yellow road running front to back, which is the bypass road. That's where the affordable properties are. We're talking beachside, easy walk to the beach. So that's, for a superannuation fund, I think that's great. We use that 9.38% return based on a 60% occupancy, as I said, which is very conservative. But the other things, 2 things to remember with that is that you've got capital growth. Very good capital growth there. You can sell it at any time. That'll then be sold through the developers who have the ongoing management of the resort. They'll take care of that for you. Another good thing too to note with this, a little bit different to other investments where, if you have, say you have 20 villas in a development, and let's say the owners own half of them, and they rent them out. It's funny how the developers' ones are always full and your ones always get what's left. The arrangement, the contract which is put together here is that the whole development is let out, and then the money that comes in is paid back to the investors proportionately. So everybody's getting an equal return, whether their villa gets 30% or 100% occupancy. So there's that there. And the bonus of it, as I had on the other screen, is that every year you get 2 weeks to come and stay in the resort. Now, because it's a self-managed superannuation fund, you're not actually allowed to stay in your own property, but you can stay in the one next door. Okay, so 2 weeks there, and of course it becomes a business trip. You're going to see your investment property, so everything going from Australia to Bali suddenly becomes a tax deduction for you, so pretty nice. So I think that those 3 examples that I've given, the first one, already established, lovely property, positively geared. The second one, the architectural ones, up in Ubud. I mean, we're in Ubud at the moment. The energy here is just quite superb. It's got a lovely feel to this town. There's so many things going on here. So that's if you want something really architectural with a high return. Or the third example here being for superannuation. I think each of them are equally good. And I will say these are 3 developments that we've got, and we're coming across more. We've got others we'd love to show you as well. And I guess, John, you'll talk about how we can do that as we just move to the next.
Well, before we finish with this one as well, one of the opportunities is to come and actually see the other development, which is just up the road. And if you're like me, which is like, oh yeah, what they showed me in the brochure isn't anything what I want to get. Well, we can walk you into the other development, which is, like I say, down the road. When you walk in, it actually looks like this. It's stunning inside, beautifully finished with really beautiful pictures and all of the sofas and everything else. They all made to a certain specification. That actually a lot of the stuff is made to their specs from the manufacturer. This is not standard stuff either. So why we can say that this is actually what you're going to get, because this is the stuff they're using in the other developments as well.
That's right.
So
actually, John,
that's a big part of it. And one more thing is that they are keeping a bunch of these. So which is lovely, rather than them selling it all out, because they can see the return that they want for themselves. So it's always great to know that your developer is in there with you, because they're going to make sure that they're going to get the best out of it.
Absolutely, absolutely right. John, with the slide, could you just whiz back up to the architectural one? That one there. Okay, so that one there, again, the same thing. It looks quite beautiful in the pictures, and I guess the same thing applies with John saying, well, yeah, maybe that's not what I'm actually going to get. If you were to come across to Bali, we can take you and show you our builder, who is an Australian, who supervises all of the jobs. His own home is half a kilometre away.
Yep. And
these designs are based on his. He has a lovely style of design. His home is beautiful, and these homes are based on his one, which is gorgeous, except these are even better.
I'm telling that.
Yeah, sorry.
All right. So we're just about, well, it's 7 minutes to 7 on my side of the world. So let's wrap it up. Let's talk about where to from here. And I love throwing this photograph. This is one of the other developments. We didn't talk about this one here. Beautifully, 8 stunning double-story and single-story super villas. The question, of course, is, can you see yourself living here? Can you see yourself investing here? Can you see potentially a return that's different and outside of potentially the realms of your current consideration of what's available to you in the country that you're calling in from? I'd love to have a conversation about that with you, and certainly Hilton on that as well, and the invitation to come through and have a look at what's here, as well as have conversations about some of the other projects that we have access to at Grassroots as well. So let's have a look at the conclusion of all of this. So obviously you can do what you're doing right now, and if you continue to do the same things, you're going to continue to get the same results. In this case, if you continue to do the same things, you're actually going to go and downgrade your life if this is your retirement strategy, if that's your current portfolio that you currently have, or the current funds that you have available. then then there's maybe a different way of doing that. You can invest in negatively geared property. Of course, that works great when you're earning income, and not so great when I guess when you're retired. And of course, because it's negative geared, then keep topping up the shortfall with that money that you're earning as well. That's a strategy. Or continue investing in your super, which is in in non-performing portfolios. And we've all been there. We've all seen it. We all know that what was promised to us, and we all bought into this promise. Really didn't actually perform. It didn't actually do what they said to do. My trust that went into that, I was really disappointed. This is coming from an authority saying this is going to do what it's going to do, and it didn't come in close. So you can keep doing that, or you can consider a different way. You can potentially choose to retire today. Take your $50,000 in net profit from something like this. Take two if you want 100,000, and change the way that you're living your life right now. If you're currently in a job and you have the ability to potentially buy one or two of these things, and you want to actually just get out of it because you're just working really hard and you're doing a lot of time in that, then there's a way of actually removing yourself from that and getting all of your valuable time back. Really, really great options. Or jump on a plane and move to a tropical location and have staff and people looking after your every need at a cost which is totally totally consistent with you being able to hire all these amazing people. Which really, I don't know how many of my friends, no matter how wealthy they are, who have chefs in Australia.
John, if I could just say with that too, I think the people here genuinely like people, and they like working with people. I mean, they're happy in their work, and that's something that I've found in Australia. A lot of people are actually not happy to be working for you. They're doing it because of the money, and yes, these guys are doing it for their money, but they're happy in what they do. They love to serve. They really like older people. They seem to respect older people, and in my case, that's really good. So that's that's an important other reason, other consideration for moving here.
Yeah, certainly, and there's nothing like seeing Norma, our chef, come in the morning and big smile on her face, and she brings the food, the fresh produce in, and she's going, she's some days she's coming in going, oh, I'm going to make this for you today, and she's so excited about making food because she loves making food. She would have 10 jobs of being a chef if she could. Sure. So fortunately, she can do it just with us. So yeah, the last one, of course, you can have your cake and eat it. So live both lifestyles, 6 months here, 6 months there. The never-ending summer that we've watched on the movies, but it's actually available. And the fact that we live here continuously, we go back to Australia to visit family and friends and stuff like that. But essentially, we can live here with the way that we've been able to set ourselves up, quite effortlessly, and build a business and have all of these opportunities that have shown up around property and investment as well. People like Hilton and his wife Paula, and who can now come into actually live here as well. And we've had dozens and dozens of people follow us here, and now who reside here. So amazing community that's created as a result of people like ourselves and others raising their hand, going, hey, if I can do this, so can you. Let me give you a hand. Let me give you a bit of guidance on how you can do that. And the people who do it are here, and they're still here, and they have a whole different experience of life. So what's available? All sorts of different things. You can come over here and be creative. Come here and design and build. You have Madison, our builder, and Hilton work with you on an extraordinary, beautifully designed home that would cost you millions to build in Australia or wherever you are in the world. Pick something off the plan and obviously fast track all of that, because these things are there already and the work and the effort's already gone in to do that. Get something brand new. We've got a bunch of brand new product that is extraordinary, beautiful, ready for occupation straight away, or buy an existing cash flow positive product that we have. And again, all of the work's been done behind this to know that they are at the level of standard of build quality, at the level of standard that can rent out to achieve the kind of returns that we're talking about. And again, we're not talking about anything outside of what we're experiencing and what others are experiencing here that have this kind of product. So we feel really confident that even though the numbers might be kind of a little overwhelming for you today, you may be looking at this going, wow, that's crazy. It's only crazy because it's your current reality is the reality of the environment you're in right now. Take yourself out of the environment, come over here, come have a holiday, come spend a week here, and let us take you around. Let us show you what's really happening here, and let's walk you through why it's happening. Let's show you the 20 buses that are parked on the edge of Ubud every single day, packed out with Chinese tourists walking down the road every single day, thousands and thousands of people flying in and out of this airport every day. They have to go stay somewhere, and they don't want to go stay in these boxes called hotels. So they're looking for something a lot more unique. And because of everything else here that's so beautifully, so well priced and so accessible, they're willing to pay a bit more for the accommodation, and they can get something extraordinary. So they go for that.
Yep.
So that's what's available. You can really start where you want to start and or take on something that's already here.
Mm-hmm.
Real simple. This is really an information session. So I want to just thank you for being part of this and listening in. This is a little teaser, a little taster of what's possible. We'd love for you, if you're coming to Bali, if you already have a ticket to Bali, which we've had a number of people on these calls going, I'm coming to Bali in a few weeks' time. We take them on our discovery tours. We show them some amazing stuff, and an extraordinary opportunity for them to have an experience of Bali, because we give you a whole experience as well as showing you properties, take you out on dinners and dancing and some great fun. So come on one of those Bali discovery tours. If you haven't booked tickets, jump, look at your calendar for the next 3-6 months, and let's book you in.
And remember, well, one of the things that you probably need to know is that airfares are on sale at the moment until midnight tonight. Yeah. $99 from Perth to Bali.
Wow!
So I guess it applies to the rest of the country as well.
Yeah, it's incredible and these things happen all the time as well.
Yep.
So one of those is connect with us, and we can only take up to 5 investors at a time and partners as well. So we can't have too many people on those, because we want to give you a real custom experience, and we want to spend a lot of time with you. Book a 30-minute private appointment with Hilton. He's currently here in Bali, so it's going to probably be a Skype call or something like that with him. He is on his way back to Australia.
Yep.
Sorry for
yep.
you.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. We love Perth. Or request some more information on any of the things that you saw with us today that you'd like to know more about. We've got all sorts of sheets and brochures as well. And just for you being on this call as a gift, to say thank you, we're going to send you our latest newspaper, which is our investor newspaper that we've now publishing. That's going to show you a whole lot of this information as well, plus a whole bunch of specific stories and articles that will certainly have you considering what's actually possible through superannuations and stuff like that as well. So that's as a thank you. We're going to send that through our next email back to you. So click on that, download that, and have that available, and have a look through that. Or come over to Bali and we'll give you a printed version of it. Would you like to finish with any questions? Should we put that up? or should we just get people just to send through questions afterwards?
I think maybe it's probably going to be better for people to send through questions, have a little think, send through whatever you like. Then, as John said at the outset, I'll just compile them, answer all of them together, and reply as a group email to everybody, so that you can just get answers to those questions you might not have asked. So please, any questions you can think of, shoot them through to us, and we'll be glad to help.
Yeah, and of course concerns. This is probably talking about stuff that's outside of what you may be comfortable with. So send us your concerns, your thoughts. What shows up for you if you're going to be retiring here? Maybe there's some questions around, what's the health system like, and what can I do insurance-wise, or whatever it might be. There's I'm sure lots of questions that would have been piqued as part of this conversation as well. There's Hilton's email address at the bottom, hilton@exquisiteproperties.com.au. Go to exquisiteproperties.com.au as well, and you'll see everything that we spoke about listed in there as well. And looking forward to a conversation, looking forward to seeing your situation and speaking directly to that, and giving you the option that may be available to you if this is a real something that you really want to do. You really want to take on and maybe change your lifestyle, change what we call it, make a sea change, do something different. And what a place to consider, which is this beautiful magical place called Bali. Looking forward to connecting with you soon. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Thanks for joining us, everybody.